and welcome to the 2017-18 edition of Prospect Basketball Weekly, brought to you by Buffalo Wild Wings in Mount Prospect. I'm your host, Jack Ankeny, and I'm joined by Coach Camardella. Thanks for coming on, Coach.
Jack, it's good to be back for another year.
Yep. All right, so after losing a pretty big senior class from last season, what players do you think have stepped up to show leadership for the team this year?
Well, I think the 8 guys who are returning all are very familiar with the program. You know, they've all been in it 3 years. You know, obviously David Swidera is our top returning player. You know, I think he and I've joked, but I think he has over 50 starts already going into his senior year, which is as many as any player I've had in 15 years. Mm-hmm. So extremely experienced, very level-headed. You couldn't ask for much more from a point guard. Okay. But obviously David was injured the entire summer, so it gave opportunities for some of our other seniors to really grow. Tim Lussenhop's going to slide into that starting 2 spot, and the 2 of them are our co-captains. Okay. So everything's going to sort of base off them, and then we've got a lot of seniors fighting for positions as well as juniors coming up from the sophomore team.
Okay. So approaching the season, how do you think the team's week of conditioning with Mr. Mirandella helps them prepare for the year?
Yeah, Mirsanity's been a thing going for 5 years now, and the biggest thing is getting guys comfortable with being uncomfortable. And, you know, part of the big deal with basketball and where we try and find success is, can you still hit your shots? Can you still make the passes? Can you still close it on balance when you're tired? You know, everybody can do it early. Everybody's excited to play in the first, second quarters. When it gets into the second half and guys are really starting to get tired, are their legs still underneath them? All right, are their heads still clear? And so we do a lot of that conditioning work in the off season to really try and prep their bodies and their minds to be able to deal with those late game situations.
Okay. So what were your biggest takeaways from last Friday's blue and white scrimmage?
Biggest thing is we have a lot of talented guys, and we just need some more experience. You know, unlike years in the past, we used to do a lot of breakdown drill work. Mm-hmm. This year we're playing a lot more. So if you come into one of our practices, you know, we're dedicating at least half, if not a little bit more than half of practice to just gameplay, where we're going through offensive series, we're going through offensive sets. We're starting to put in a couple of our man defense principles and obviously our zone defense. Mm-hmm. And so it's really helping these guys start to recognize what gameplay looks like, and again, focusing back on our conditioning for how we really succeed when we play.
Okay. How do you think that scrimmage and, I guess, implementing more gameplay in practice helps the team prepare for the season?
Well, the biggest thing is trying to find lineups that work. I think anybody who has coached or played basketball understands that the 5 best players aren't always the 5 guys on the floor. You know, in my time as coach, it's oftentimes finding that blend of guys, that combination of guys that play really well together, and that's what gives our team success. You know, we don't need 5 20-point scorers on the floor. And so it's really about filling roles and then excelling in your role. And so the more gameplay that we do in practice allows us to work with combinations of guys that really we haven't seen play in those situations before. So that's going to be helpful for us moving forward.
Okay, thank you, Coach. Who do you think the team's biggest competition heading into the East will be?
Into the East? I think the East is wide open, but if you're asking me, Buffalo Grove has the most returning talent in the league. Just some really good guards, really good big man. And, you know, Coach Peterson and I go way back. We played against each other in college, so we know each other's programs well. There's a lot of mutual respect, and I think the Bison probably have, you know, the early target in terms of being that group that's ready to compete for the East. But it's a long season. You know, what do we got? 4 months in front of us, so we'll take it a game at the time and go from there.
Okay, thank you, Coach Camardella. And next up will be an interview with point guard David Swidera.
Welcome back to Prospect Basketball Weekly, presented by Buffalo Wild Wings in Mount Prospect. I'm here with point guard David Swidera. David, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
How will you use your 2 prior years of experience to lead this team?
I'll just try to be a leader, first of all, and try to get the juniors coming up, the youngins to really belong and try to really feel comfortable with our program and see how it goes on.
What have you improved on the most this offseason to improve your game?
One thing I've really improved on is trying to improve on my ball handling and my shot. As I was injured throughout the summer, I try to just get back in shape and get ready for the season.
Absolutely. How have you seen this team as a whole develop this offseason?
I see we've been developing well. We've been really getting close, hanging out after, and I feel like we've been getting there to be able to talk on defense and really come together as a team.
What will you need to do to fill in for the big senior class that left this team last year?
Be a leader as well, and really help this team out so that we could get the best chance, like give our team the best chance that we can win.
Definitely. What are your expectations for the St. Viator tournament?
Just to really just play our game and like do our game plan and let the game do the talking.
Absolutely. That's all we have for David Swidera.
Welcome back, everyone, to Week 1 of Prospect Basketball Weekly, sponsored by Buffalo Wild Wings and Mount Prospect. Coach Camardell is back to preview the St. Viator tournament. So, Coach, what do you think the team's main focus heading into that tournament is?
I think our big thing is to figure out who we are as a team. We say, last year we knew a lot of our pieces, pretty much knew who our top players were. This year it's really about using that first week of games to develop an identity and to not go into the season, just trying to get easy wins. Opening up with Evanston and then having to play St. Viator at St. Viator on that Wednesday night, which for me, it's one of the most fun games of the year, just because all of our alums are back for Thanksgiving. That everybody's got the next day off. It's an incredibly fun environment. We've had some great games there over the years. Then we're going to have to play Drew Peterson in Libertyville, who's one of the top players in the state, and then end with Highland Park, who plays that famed 1-2-2 ball press for 32 minutes. So we get 4 different looks and 4 different styles of play, and I sort of feel like it's the Tom Izzo Michigan State schedule. You play really difficult teams early. You find out who you are. You can't hide any of your deficiencies, and then you get better. And you spend the next 15, 16 weeks trying to improve upon what you experienced that first week.
Yeah. So how do you think playing in this tournament every year with some of the same teams each year helps you year to year knowing those teams' styles of play?
Yeah, that's a great question, because Evanston is always one of the top teams in the area, if not the state. And this year it'll be interesting. Libertyville's got a new head coach, so we're going into that game a little blind. So we'll have a couple of games to see them and scout and start to see how they play. But in terms of Highland Park, Coach Harris is one of my close friends, and obviously Coach Hayes over at Viator. We've become close over the last few years as he's become the head coach there. So, like I said, in other cases, there's a lot of mutual respect among the coaches over at the tournament. I think a lot of the players know each other through AAU, summer ball, fall ball. So I just think it's a really healthy tournament. It's great that it's right in the neighborhood, so that a lot of our fans and families can head right over, and they're not trekking to really far distances. We used to play in the city. We used to play all the way out in St. Charles. So now I think it's just a really nice neighborhood tournament with really good teams.
Yeah. So how does playing in a tournament filled with good teams help prepare you for the rest of the year?
I think that's the ultimate key. We play a really difficult non-conference schedule. This year our 5 teams are Niles North, Lions, Glenbrook North, Glenbrook South, and Stevenson. So we always put together a really difficult non-conference schedule. We're always looking to try and win the East Division Championship, just because that's the first real championship that we can win. And then move to just learn how the Wheeling Hardwood can also act sort of as our midpoint of the season. And so in each step, we take one game at a time, we take one practice at a time, but I make sure our guys also always have vision and they understand that what we do today is giving us a chance to try and win tomorrow.
Okay. So your first game is against a traditionally strong Evanston team. What will it take to start off the season with a win?
The first thing we got to do is control the ball. So what I mean by that is we can't have sloppy turnovers, especially live ball turnovers. What I mean by that, trying to make a pass and throwing it out of bounds, it's a dead ball turnover.
Yeah.
Traveling or doing double dribbling, those are dead ball turnovers. An offensive foul, it's a dead ball, right? Live ball turnovers are, on a reversal pass, them picking it off and going down the other side of the floor. So we've got to control those momentum swings. So you might see me if you're watching the game, I might burn an early timeout or two just to make sure that we don't get down big early. Try and keep the game close, but I think controlling the ball on the offensive end and limiting second chance opportunities with regards to rebounding. On the defensive end, I think those are 2 things we're going to look for early.
Okay. Thank you, Coach Camardella. That should do it for Week 1 of Prospect Basketball Weekly, brought to you by Buffalo Wild Wings and Mount Prospect. We'll see you next week.